والله انا محمود اقول له قلت له والله انا
Okay, so please let me give you an idea of how we are going to explore such a huge temple, because this is the biggest of all the temples that we're going to visit in the cruise trip on the Nile. This is Karnak. Look at what I'm talking about. There is something here, something there, lots of other sections around, and a big blue spot, which is like a lake. So within the temple, there was a lake. Let me start with the lake. Why do they have a lake? Actually, we're very close to the Nile. And this temple used to have a bark station and a marina. So in ancient time, when they were building a temple, there was a bark station. So where we're standing, where the Nile is a bit behind us, this was where the bark station. The lake I've been talking about, it's been fed from the Nile. And this is the lake where the priests who would live in the temple would use it on daily basis. So they need to have the water in the temple. So simply, who are the ones living in these temples? Because this is a temple for a god. So yes, the king would come to the temple to make the rituals to the god. But there is people in charge of the temple, taking care of all the different duties and things. And these are the priests, a number of priests. Could be 100 or 200 living in a temple. This temple has been built over years and years. And in our temples, we know that they start building the temple from the back, where I'm pointing with my laser. Look at this section and some missing obelisk, because now our obelisks are around the world. Then you get this section, which is simply now it's in ruin. Then you get this part where we're going to see a number of obelisks. And then you get all the way to the one section till we get to the front. So what I'm pointing now, this is the entrance, this is the front. And on the front we have rows of sphinxes. So these were the sphinxes that were one day at the avenue. Actually, when you look at the sphinxes today, this is not the original site, because this temple has an extension on this side. So look at this, what I'm pointing. This what goes all the way even towards Luxor Temple. So they were connecting this temple with the Luxor Temple. And the sphinxes were all the way down there at the avenue. But they removed them from the avenue and they kept some here. Some others you're going to see them in the temple itself. And more of the sphinxes we're going to see in evening when we go to the Luxor Temple. So this is where we're going to start our tour. As we go in our direction, we're getting to the temple. Related to the kings of Egypt, like the Ramesses family, Ramesses II, Ramesses III. Many of the temple sections are dating back to that period. Now you have what's in front of you. It's the entrance or the pylon of the temple, which is the very new section. Because again, they built the temple from inside to outside. The different kings, as they ruled Egypt, they kept adding into the temple. So the very old part at the back, which is somehow in ruin, it dates back to 2000 before Christ. And the newer sections that we're going to see together, they are like back to the 13th century, which is the period of Ramesses family. For a minute. On the left you see the Elot, Ramesses, and on the top, although it's missing the one part, but have a look at the figure represented and repeated in the middle. So what I'm pointing at, the god Amen, holding what? The key of life, the symbol of good luck, the anchor. And these are the cartouches. When you go to the ship, you're going to find the small shop there offering all these cartouches on different sizes, different styles. And another thing we have there on the outside is of the god Amen. Human head, human body, but they have the head of ram. So this is like a symbol of the invisible force of reproduction for the god or for the ram. Between the paws of the sphinxes, what can you see? There's a figure standing. So this will be the king. So the king is there protected by the paws of the sphinxes. So let's see a number of others, because the ones in the front, they are well preserved rather than what's next to us. Be careful when you're walking around here. Passing one sphinx after the other. You can see what I'm talking about concerning the statues. So you see them between the paws of the sphinxes. This is the king of Egypt, Ramesses II, protected by the ram, and he's represented in a what? Up over the chest. So this is all the period of Ramesses II. The famous king of Egypt, who ruled the country for 67 years. Just imagination of someone on power for that long. He got all the chance to do whatever, the records and the temples and things to prove that I can. I'm the king of Egypt. And this is most of what you see in this temple, in a good condition, it's dating back to the life. So we will tackle the first pile. The big gate, the big kind of a wall, which is very simple. It doesn't have any kind of carvings.
He's all the way in front.
От них хватило, да?
Interesting. Mucho tu technique.
I told you, everything is about scale. So the minute you start walking, you just get impressed with the scale of imagination of how the idea of the temple is alive. Logic. This is a mountain, this place for the god, and I wanted to decorate it with whatever style. Something very interesting we found in this part of the temple. If you will look at this behind you. Remaining of a mud brick section, which was their scaffold style at the time. When they were building huge walls like this, how are they going to raise up the block? They have the ramp. What else is this part of the temple? Look at the inside. There's room for a chapel, like it's been added in within the courtyard. What's the element and what's the structure of any temple, starting from the facade, from the pylon, getting into the court, and then different rooms. And what else we have in a temple? The most important section in any temple, it's the Holy of the Holies, the sanctuary. The sanctuary is an important section, and this is what we're going to see when we walk together inside the temple of the Balkan. Here we have statues on both sides, not in an excellent condition, but they're representing the king. In a standing position, Ramesses III is there welcoming everybody when we walk into his temple. Let's walk together, and this is all made out of sand and stone. A lot of sand, stone, with a lot of restoration as well, and walking in. You can get into the court, the open court, very similar to the big one that we just passed out there, but this is like a miniature style. So it's a temple in a temple. But this is complete. That's why I love to take you into this one, because from here we keep walking in, and the more you walk in, you get to the room, which is the sanctuary. What kind of columns we have? They're columns with the statues representing the king. So each column has a statue, and the statue is representing the king in an Osiris position. Things like mummified, like the walls are around the temple. They're not
Hani belli başlı.
This will be open. Never. This part would never be sealed. But the more you get inside, you'll have a ceiling. But this is the garden place. This is ceilings made in wood. No, we have ceiling out of stone. Now you can see. So this is like an open section, never been covered up. But the more you go towards the sanctuary, you're going to find first it gets like as if you're going up. So like you're going to a holy place. So you're moving a few steps up, and it gets darker. Because this is like a sacred room. From their perspective, this is where you would put a statue in a room for the god. We'll stop together for a minute because I wanted to point out for you what's up on the top. And this is what I wanted to show you. Look at the ceiling. Look at look at the colors. Believe it or not, if this is just our example of the colors remaining, this will give you the proof that the whole thing has been painted one day. But we just need to work on and to do a lot of restoration and cleaning up. And what you see with the colors, a bit of blue, a bit of yellow, is the cartouche, the oval frame, repeated all over, including the name of the king, Ramesses III. Let's go in. Don't get surprised that I just took you on a side temple. I love to do tours in a little bit of a different way. And sometimes I can do a maneuver around where the big groups are. And I just want to get my guests into a little bit of quiet area as much as we can. It's not always guaranteed good, but whenever it's possible. This is one of my favorite rooms in the temple. It talks about a sacred place. We call it the sanctuary room. And in any temple, we have a room like this. And in all these temples, the room will have a statue, but it's missing. And who would be the statue for? The god of the temple. So if the god that was worshipped here was Amun, so they would have a statue for the god Amun. But then they decorate the wall with all the carvings that tells us the story of what the king will do when he gets into the temple. So the story I'm talking about, let me point out. First of all, you get the king himself. So the king is here. And how do I know he's the king? Because next to his head, I can get the reading, the cartouche, because this is the only way for us to know what's the name of the person. The king here is represented sort of like burning incense. And look at how he's dressed. Look at his lovely skirt. Look at the frieze. And the frieze of cobras. The details on the frieze is amazing. And then what else we have? There's some flowers. And then look at a boat. Can you see what I'm talking about? With an oar. And the boat has the head of the ram. So this is the head of Amun. The god is there. So they call it the boat of Amun. And this is where they talk about journey on the Nile. They move on the boats. They take trips on the Nile. And they go on one side of the trip on the Nile. They come back from the Sphinx Avenue. So this is what we get to see here and there. Look on the other side. The king one more time. And this time you can see on his forehead, what can I point out? The cobra. A cobra is a symbol of eternity and royalty. Then he's doing the same thing with burning incense and holding what? The key of life. The lovely skirt. Cartouches all over. And one more time, they boat. Here is the boat. The boat of Amun with the oars. And look at the carvings everywhere. And up on the ceiling, there was more vultures and carvings. They're not in a very good condition, but it shows some missing part which they're adding wood. But look at the bit of colors. Can you see the blue? When you see the blue up there, this would tell us that one day the whole thing has been painted. And this is just the remaining part, which of course it costs a lot of money. We need to have a lot of money that can be paid one way or another for people to come to all these colors. A piece of decoration up on the top. A lovely kind of artist work with the cartouches and colors as well. So this is what we get in the sanctuary room. Let me show you something else. We have many gods and goddesses represented here. So they include different gods. The one I'm pointing at is under the name Horus, the fountain. Can you see the head? Another one is a woman, and she has the horns. This will be the goddess Hathor, that we will visit a temple for her tomorrow in the afternoon in Denver. It's a very nice temple. There's the jackal, Anubis, and there's many other figures and figures. So this is all different figures. They divide the wood into registers, and they tell us different stories on each part of them all. This is the remaining of what we get in this temple, and let's go back again to the main Karnak hall. Now we're taking the big room, 134 columns. These columns are this kind of
Okay.
So now we're moving from one pylon to another. So this is the second pylon. And they did some work on this one because you can see the white color. So they tried not to get the base, the original color. And it has the same story of the division into registers. And they tell us the same idea. The god with the king with the god, sitting or standing, doing offerings, burning incense, and let's walk together to get inside the whole of the color. Scale of everything. It's just amazing. And you have to stop for a minute and keep looking up. It's much. Everything is big, it's their style. Just want to push the size of actually, when we're walking through and there's meaning, all this has been buried to understand more, not only the but the part of the colors has been buried to understand. You have to move up and understand. So, as we're stopping here for a minute, just to absorb, to look at, keep looking at the columns, you can see colors, you can see yellow, going to see blue. We're going to do the name of Seti the First. We are going to do it after tomorrow, the tomb of Seti the First. Because unfortunately, the tomb of Ramesses II was never been found in a good condition since the excavation has been badly damaged. And he was the most famous Egyptian, but unlucky we did not This is the period more or less, although nobody would think that. So these are the different columns. Stand by the columns. It's not just the column, but the crest. Look at the columns. Look at how it's preserved. The blue and the red and the yellow. Look at the carpet. Jackal, another, a third, a fourth. So this is talking about both. Another boat with a ram head and more figures up on the top. They're not in an excellent condition, but we have more to talk about. I want to lose it. You have seen the king. Ramesses again kneeling. Look at the details of his feet. Behind him, the gods. In front of him, the gods. And who's there? On the corner. This is the sun of Amen and Mut. And he's like a lunar god. Look at his top, crescent and the moon. So they represent him this god in ancient mythology and is part of the triad, part of what they believe in. And then you may see something else, which is another boat, but it's carried up by priests. Can you see the figures? Look at the heads. They wanted to tell us a multiple number of people moving on and carrying the boat. So this is to reflect the idea of how they lived, who lived in the temple, and who was in charge of all the jobs, who was in duty to do this and that. These are the priests, and we get painted parts, which give us the proof again that everything has been painted and colored one day. So let's keep moving. It's another figure up on the top that shows one more time the priest carrying the boat with a bit of reddish color. Look at the necklace they're having up with the ram. And there's gods on the one side behind the king with jackal heads, others like falcon on here, and the king one more time is there, burning the entrance towards the head of where the boat is representing the god. Each one
رسالة دول.
Kingdom section. Remember what I told you in the beginning? You start from inside to outside. Because it's the most preserved section, and there's still a lot of section. People walk around and see more. But I would like to talk about the wall on your left side. Look at the hieroglyphics. Able to get all the stories. So this is chapters and chapters on the cartouches, and this is part of our ancient history. Now what we are going to do is, I'll take you for another section towards the sacred lake, and I'll tell you what about the sacred lake area, and then I'll tell you how to move around in the ancient sort of a story that she relegated someone to the background, telling him that you are the lesser queen. You're not supposed to rule, but I'm the league one to be on power.
انتوا الاثنين في نفس الوقت عم بصوتوا انتوا الاثنين.
After tomorrow when we get to her temple. But this one, when she died, he became the king of Egypt. And he was very jealous from what she did. He started moving all over her monuments, damage, chisels. And he came to this obelisk and he wanted to damage. But the priest said, no, come on, we're not going to damage such a great sign in the temple. This was meant to be to the gods. What he did, he started to cover the obelisk by building a wall all around it. And the wall was not up to the top. What happened after building the wall, there was in ancient time an earthquake in the year 27 before Christ. Within the earthquake, the wall was just falling apart and the obelisk was still standing, so it looked like he protected the obelisk. But this is why we got the different shades of colors, because all what was covered up with the walls, it's been protected from the sun, so it got a darker color on the granite, but the top was exposed to the sun, so it got the different shades of granite. So these are from here, the two obelisks of and her father. This is also part of an obelisk for her. So she got such a number of obelisks all over Egypt. And this is close as we're standing, you see the carvings that tells us the god with the queen. It's always the way to show you this would be the god, Amen, and the queen is there. She's wearing different crowns. And look at the curtain. And here we have behind you, by the sacred lake area, we have the scarab beetle that I just talked about. It's the one statue.
The scarab beetle. Hold it, hold it, hold! Click, click, click! Man. Smile. Smile.
انتوا ما دقتوش يا جماعه؟ لا بجد عشان متاكده
They need a lot of good luck, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully some of it will rub off on me. Come here.
Stars and blue. So they decorate the ceiling with the stars, with the blue, and this is just our first thing concerning colors and blues. Because tomorrow in the afternoon, don't miss the temple. Because it's a very special temple with great colors and in very good condition. It's the temple of Hathor, the goddess. And I know that some of you will feel that they don't want to go to the temple because we will have a bus drive from Luxor, from the ship, to go to the temple. It's like a 1.5 hour drive each way. Normally, we do this trip on the ship, but because the Nile in this time of the year gets a bit low in the water, so we cannot go with the ship. And we cannot cancel. We don't want to cancel the trip, so we still do it by the bus trip. So don't miss it because it's really one of the most impressive temples. We'll give you some good break on the bus, we can have a nap after lunch and everything, and then we can enjoy the temple together. So this is just a very little thing of colors, but you want to be impressed with more colors and colors because it talks about astronomy and astrology. Here in the temple. So look at this. Colors and colors, and look at the other side as well. Can you see more stars? Wow, this is really something. So they are carving and they're doing the colors on granite. The last part of the section, look at what's there. Overhead, the very lower part of the temple. So this is the central room, and in the room where I'm pointing, this was supposed to be a statue. So they put a statue in the middle of the room representing the god, and the god that was here is supposed to be the god Karnak. And then they carve the wall with the same stories. If you look at the granite, yes, the carving is not as clear as other carving with the stone, but you can still see the same ideas between the god sitting and the god standing and the offerings and all the stones that we're talking about here and there, both sides are relating to the same idea. This is the way we do it. I know this was just an introduction. We have a lot of history, a lot to learn about. It's one temple. Oh yeah, Mike has taken too. See you then. Getting to the bus to find the vendors. You're going to be everywhere, selling the same items, between galabiyas or t-shirts, a range of prices, just for you to know. If you're getting a t-shirt or a blouse, this is the range of a $5 US. If you're getting the big, long outfit, which we call it galabiya, and you might be interested to have it because we will have one day an Egyptian night on the ship where you can dress up like Egyptian, walk like Egyptian, or dance like Egyptian. So these outfits, it's a range of a 10 US dollars, like a 500 Egyptian or a 10 US dollars. We keep asking for more, but this is the range of prices I'm talking about. Again, the galabi is a range of a 10, and they have it for both men and women. The men have it like solid colors or stripes. The women, they have it with a nice broderie and color. You will have them today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Every day you'll have the same collection. Okay? Yes, there is an Egyptian knife. Have some Egyptian
Well, we finally got on board our Nile ship, the Anton. And we were just finished unpacking, had lunch.
behind me a little bit in the front. Just follow where the lollipop is. I try to find the spot where the group can listen together.
Oh, yes, I can ignore the light.
We'll find who's walking. About the temple. Facade. I've taken some pictures of lovely statues of Ramesses II and one obelisk. Look at where I'm pointing. Look at the obelisk. Oh, the details, the hieroglyphics and the pieces. No, this is a obelisk, the twin of Paris. And he took the clock, which I talked about earlier. And this is the one still surviving in the temple. But you can imagine when they were two together, when they were flanking the entrance of the temple, one here and one there. And then on the back side, by the highway, we got the standing and sitting statues of Ramesses II. So this temple is part of it by Ramesses II. Well, this is the symbol of the god Ra. The name of the obelisk, which is made of granite, the baboon. And then you got statues for the king and letters. It's much better than taking it from close. Follow the lollipop, follow me, take you towards past the avenue. Oh la la, that's a good spot. That's very nice from here. It's close to where we are. The sun is going down. Pictures behind you. And the Sphinx Avenue, remember where we were talking about in the morning? This is where the avenue, this is where idea, I know painted for them. Look at the first poster, where it tells you hut, ship, soup. Hut, ship, soup is the one that shows the statue. The statue yesterday, the one that you wanted to represent itself to the beer. Nectanebu. And he was the last king who ruled Egypt before Alexander the Great. When Alexander conquered Egypt the year 323 before Christ, Egyptians were desperate with all the invasions before Alexander. So when Alexander came to Egypt, he started to promise them, well, I'll be loyal to your God, and about Cleopatra. But all these, they built something one way or another in the temple of Luxor. As you walk together from the front to the back, you will be coming the same way out. And as you come out, look at what's on the left side, the gift shop that I've been talking about. Just next to the gift shop is the gate that takes you up to where the bus is, where the bus in the bus. Around with the lollipop to direct you where is the bus. That was all done on the closer and closer.
History and culture.
And I show you the king sitting and the lady statue is amazing with the car. Passing the statue and then keep walking inside the temple to the courtyard. big spacious section that has the columns and the columns.
في واحدة على البي سي ما هي قالت لي بص عليها. Where?
Coming outside to this part of the temple, came idea and overboard our columns. Mosque. When we have the call for prayer, people they go from outside the temple, they walk into the mosque. I'm not going to guess the details of the carving now because it's dark. You will get to other temples, you'll know more about it. But this is very similar than what we have in the morning. You see what I'm pointing on the standing figure? This is Amen Ra. One of the heads. Here, the statue of Alabaster. Egypt, I know it's not a very high quality of alabaster, but as you keep inside, in front of the slow down. And also because I wanted to point out from here. Swimming. Yeah, okay. What I wanted to show you from here.
I got all closed in and I couldn't get out.
Turned to be a Roman. That's right. The arch. It's a Roman. Like this part of the temple turned to be a Roman chapel. So they changed up like a church. It has columns on the side that has Corinthian capital. And let's go closer.
Listen here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just told him on the way out.
Outer walls have been missed because of the Nile. The Nile gets very closer, so there was lots of damage. This temple is still active from the perspective of the held parties. They make events, and every now and then we come to this temple and we find them setting a stage. There is a performance of something, a concert or whatever, and one day they had here the opera Aida. Imagine the Aida lit at night and an opera staged out here. And in the 1980s, when they were planning to have the stage for the opera Aida, they by just chance excavated a cache, like a deep room, like on the corner right there. This was where statues were found down under the temple, and this was for the king of Egypt, Amenhotep. They moved these statues to the Luxor Museum, but it was just the fact of they still find things up till very recent time. It's not just the old days when they excavated 19th century and 20th, but up till now we hear about how rich Luxor is. Luxor and Saqqara. Was looking
Oops, sir.
Be the same way I got lost and they have offerings for food. See what I'm talking about? See the meat? You see the leg? This is what I'm talking about. Have a celebration, have a kind of a festival, have a kind of a party. And if you have a party today, don't you have an invitation of people, but don't you serve food for them? So this is what we would consider the food item. And this is how they slaughter in the house and the item. One more time, the king is always there, some chiseling figures, and you cannot listen to anything that gets up with an arch like this. This would tell you that this is the Roman part. Another thing is very interesting. The section that we're standing at, and exactly look under the feet, you may find. Okay, please let them go on. Okay. What I'm talking about, if you look down on the ground, you can see like the shape of a semicircle. You know what I'm talking about? Because this was one day a column here. This part of the temple, it's been placed up here. So lots of changes happened when the Romans were in and the Greeks were in. So this is what proves, you see the part, how much even the ceiling shows that it was not really proper. And this is what we say, the change of time. Again, the same scenery on the wall, closer together. The king would be there, with his cartouches next to his head, the boat in front of us, with all the jars that includes the liquids and oils and the food and the flowers. So from offerings and offerings, this is the food thing that we love. It's like bread, it's like something to eat. And again, this is holding something in the hand, offering more and more food. So this is a lot of offerings that they talk about, and this is what we have in here. And ducks, yes, lots of ducks and gooses and birds and things, and the meat, as I just talked about earlier. So any questions so far? This is the maximum that we can do with the crowds of the temple. The god Amen-Ra, the sun with the name close at the lunar, the king again, which is cartouche. But look at this figure. When you're pointing up to the top, can you see the feathers? Automatically would say what? This is Amen. But I want to tell you another story. Look at the one missing arm. And look at this. Excuse me, but this is the main organ. And in many temples, in many carvings we saw this morning, we found the figure like this with the main organ here in this chisel. But this is a god from Egyptian mythology under the name of god Min, M-I-N. So he's a god of sex. And he's known in our history, and he's represented always very much like Amen, but and one arm missing and the main organ like this. So this is part of the history record, and this will be the goddess Hathor, and the king again, and the other gods. So this will be repeated in some temples, because I assume some of you have seen it this morning, and we didn't have the chance to talk about it, but look at the lower register. Can you see the one figure repeated? This is the god under the name Happy, H-A-P-I. and Happy was the god of the Nile. Tomorrow you'll have the lecture on board the ship about Egypt and the Nile. And this will be the focus on about this god. And what is he doing? He's offering, he's holding flowers, he's holding food, he's holding trays of food and jars as if he's offering to the god, because we're in the room of the god. The god Amen should be in this room. But again, to remind you, this is the room that has been moved up because we've seen the columns from the back. If you look on the other side, you can see the same thing of what I've been talking about. The god with the feathers, but the one missing arm. And look at this. When they started chiseling, one of the main things that started the chisel was the male organ. They were very much against this idea of representing someone with the male organ. So this is very clear that they did a lot of chiseling, yes, faces and so, but intentionally they chiseled this part as well. So let's start.
Bakkala şöyle.
Zaten vücudu yapmış. Çünkü şeyden farklı. Mesela giydiği eşofman bir sıkıştırmış beni.
Abi ben de bir bugün yediğimde beni de ağırladı normalde hiç öyle olmaz.
Benim de şey yani yerse
Of the Nile, representing this on the base of the statue. It's a push. I think they hold it enough. They love the way of showing the power of papyrus and the lotus. This is what we call it papyrus. It's Shema Tali, the unification between the north and the south.
Oh, that obelisk.
Yeah,
I mean, it's in excellent shape, right?
it sure is.
I guess what she says, the other one, or they took the one to France, and it's
Getting blackened up because of the soot and everything, yeah.
the acid.
Remember how to get out of here? Up that ramp, or is it?
Yeah, I think you have to go up there. Oh, no,
You're coming down that way. Oh, through there, yeah.